time. So Surrey Second Ward was getting very big, and we were meeting down towards the Wally end in the building, which was quite a long ways from a lot of the people up in our area. And so they decided to build a stake center. And in that stake center, they were going to put, they were going to split the wards and be have Surrey Third Ward. I was Bishop's councillor in Surrey Second Ward at that time, and then I was called as a bishop, which was quite interesting, and it was great. I knew the people and all that. It was kind of an interesting challenge because we didn't have a building. Our building was being built, and it took about a year before the building was built. So we actually met down in White Rock, and they put some interesting challenges because they were off on their own for such a long time, had the whole building to themselves and all that kind of stuff. So they were a little hesitant to share in the odd time. We met. When we were first setting it up, we probably met for several hours at a crack. I don't remember how long they were, but it seems to me that we met in our living room for quite a long time. We had the High Council. I can't remember who that was now, actually. And we would sort of organize and fill everything out. So we had some pretty specific ideas as to what I wanted to accomplish and that sort of thing. So
Nice.
we had some fantastic people, and so we were able to roll along quite nicely, I think. And when we started, we were the smallest ward in the stake, and when I was released, we were the largest.
Obviously, I'd never been bishop before, and I remember sitting there on the first day and, wow, is this really happening sort of feeling? But I would have shed a tear or two at the end of it all because I loved being bishop for the 2 wards. And Surrey Third, I went from the biggest ward in the stake to the smallest, Delta, and it was quite a challenge.
After serving as Elders Quorum president, and I was still not speaking English well, French being my first language, I was still struggling with the language, but I had served as Elders Quorum president, then I went on the High Council, and this is when I was called to serve as bishop to replace Ray Dykes. And I remember quite well being interviewed by the stake presidency. They were interviewing a lot of high priests to determine who should be, that's the process for them to determine who should be called. And one of the questions they asked me, they said, who do you think would be or should be called as bishop in the ward? And I said, Eden Hagen or Lauren Olson. And then they called me, and then I called them as my counselor. And they were wonderful, wonderful counselor.
I was serving as a High Councillor, and I was called by President Harrington at the time. He was the stake president at the time. My hesitation isn't because I don't remember. My hesitation is because I remember very clearly, actually. I was not surprised when I had the interview with President Harrington. I knew what he was going to call me to. And that's all I can say. So it was not a surprise. It was more confirmation. And I had served as a singles ward bishop in Edmonton before. And in fact, when I moved out here, I had been released a little bit early from that calling because of my move. And I didn't have the same initial feeling when I was called as a bishop there as I did when I was Surrey Third Ward bishop. I just kind of knew that was going to happen. I both knew it was coming, and I was surprised. Not that I didn't know it was coming. I was surprised that it was me, because I'm not a very charismatic kind of a guy. I've never been, and so that the calling as a bishop is, it's a real people calling. I wasn't, and I'm not a type people person in that, the sort of normal people person. So it was a surprise to me in that respect.
On a Sunday, the 4th of July in 2004, Lauren received a call to ask if he would meet with the stake president next Sunday and bring his wife. And so he said, no, I can't. I'm sorry, we're leaving on Thursday Bridge for our son James's marriage and sealing in the Cardston Temple. So a few minutes later, or a short time later, he received another call saying, well, could you meet us on the Wednesday, the 7th of July at the old Surrey Stakes Center? And we will, and to have a meeting there with President Saul. So we did. So I sat in the foyer. Lauren went in initially to meet with President Saul, and that was about a 20-minute meeting. They called me in and they said, and I sat down, and right away President Saul said, Sister Olson, your husband has been called to be the bishop of the 3rd Ward, Surrey 3rd Ward. Oh my goodness. And I was struck with the enormity of the call. And I felt, well, I knew that this Bishop Olson would be so good because he loves people and he loves the gospel and he loves how the programs work and fit together. And he would have an opportunity to use the skills he had. This would be, well, I'm jumping forward a little bit. This would be an additional layer or opportunity for him. He's always served, since he's lived in the Lower Mainland since 1972. His callings had always been in a bishopric as a counselor or on the High Council, because he could see how to love and lift people. It may not have been overwhelming to Lauren, because he, having had, this was 2004, and since 1972, he had had experiences as a counselor and in High Council, seeing how wards were working. He loved being with the people, and he knew them and could strengthen them. He would have had, my sense is he would have had good, solid ideas about whom to choose for counselors, whom to put in in significant positions in a ward, and he would have loved doing that.
As soon as I arrived, your dad, Bishop Olson, put me to work. He put me as a ward missionary. That was a great calling. I worked with Brother Trombley. And he was the ward mission leader, and I was a ward missionary. I had a great time. It was an opportunity for me to drive around and get to know the geography around here and see some people and meet people and knock on doors and verify phone numbers and verify addresses. It was just great. So I did that about 3 months or so, if I remember. And then Bishop Olson asked me to serve as high priest group leader. So I did that towards the end of 2007. The next summer of 2008, Bishop Olson and his wife decided to serve a mission, and it was culminating in the time that he was about to be released as a bishop. It was a great experience. He called me in and he says, look, in confidence, come here, Brother Tolano, come to my house. I want to see you. And he's like, look, I have good news and bad news. So in confidence, he's like, look, we're going to be away. The good news is we're going to be away. We'll love to, if you can leave the basement, we'll love for you to move into our home and stay here until we return for our mission. And he made me an offer I could not refuse. And it was wonderful. And he's like, that's good news. The bad news is I gave President Saul your name as one of the names to replace me. So I thought he was joking, and we just laughed and we had a good time. But yeah, President Saul called me around those days and extended me the calling. In hindsight, Brother Olson, you always want to do better. You want to go back to a few things you did and you want to redo those things. But wow, what a great experience. I had 2 counselors. So the experience with President Saul was just like any bishop being called. It's terrifying, exciting at the same time. You feel like you're not prepared. You feel there's you're going to fall short, but there's something that prepares you. There's something inside that says this is the right thing. So it's all those feelings, and it's obviously it's so almost impossible for anyone to refuse, and it's a wonderful experience. I called Brother Verhagen and Brother Kyle McAdam back then. And then, and I had Brother Clark, forgot his first name, Brother Clark, Doug Clark. He was our ward executive secretary. And one day he was just with us and he described the three of us to us. And I really loved it because it kind of matched. And he said, Bishop Ortolano, you're kind of like the sun. You bring a lot of energy, you're you're upbeat. You bring the energy, you get things rolling. And I'm gonna say you're the sun. And then you have Brother Verhagen here. He's the thunder, and he makes it happen. He comes and he's like, I'm on it. I'm gonna get this done, and I'm gonna do it this way, and that is so true. Brother Verhagen was a true thunder in that bishopric. And then he described Brother McAdam as the wind, because he was tech savvy. In 2008, he was the youngest in our group, very, very computer literate. He was always on top of everything, very detail oriented, faster than all of us could be in many ways for serving in his responsibilities and assignments. So the way Brother Clark described the three of us, it was perfect to me. I never forgot that. But it was the beginning was we were cleaning house a little bit. We were just adjusting and make it our own. We were changing some presidencies. We're making some adjustments here and there. And Surrey 3rd is a very fluid ward. There's a lot of people leaving, a lot of people coming in at all the time. It was a lot of fun in the beginning. It was a lot of fun. I learned that it's so important to be organized, to be perfect. There's some things you really need to be perfect. And it's so important for those things. Did you call sister so-and-so? Yes, no. Are we sustaining? We're sustaining before calling. We're calling before, setting apart before sustaining. We were just a chicken without heads, like you say sometimes. And then it took us some time to figure out, okay, we're not perfect people, but there are a few things here that we can do perfectly. We're dealing with people's lives and how they feel about their involvement with the gospel and with the church, and they want to serve. Let's get that part of calling, sustaining, setting apart. Let's get that perfect.
Well, I was getting groomed, I guess, into Surrey by one of my first calling was employment special. And Brother Ron Tondevalt, his wife was, I guess, something to do in the self-reliance. And then Brother Tondevalt was in the eldest quorum or high priest or something. And I remember going to his home and getting trained in my new calling and just a warm welcome. And Brother Tondevalt, he's another one of those amazing guys. And so I was just being taught by these guys how to be a good Surrey loving person. But Brother Olson was released, and then Brother Ortolano was called, and then he in his bishopric I guess I was asked, I was given a calling to be his counselor, and then so I served Bishop Ortolano as a counselor. But leadership is not a letter in this church, and so I was from bishopric. I thought I was gonna just go into my favorite calling, which is hymn book picker upper, and I'm still wishing someday I'll get that calling. But that's from there. Then I was called into the bishop to serve as a bishop. Well, what happened was it was Christmas time. I believe 2012. Maybe 2011, no, 2011 Christmas time. And it was a stake Christmas presentation, the thing that they do at the Stake Center. And President Saul came to that, of course, and then right when before he asked me, I was asked by President Sloan to give a prayer, opening prayer in that devotional, the Christmas stake devotional concert that they were holding. So I walked in, I'm like all geared up to, getting ready to say the opening prayer. And just, in my mind, I'm having these thoughts about how I should say the prayer or things I should, just trying to get some inspiration. President Saul calls me and says, "Hey, can I talk to you and your wife?" And then I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that's all right, President." President Saul then takes me to that, the room there, little room by the stake office. And then he's like, "Hey, Brother Prasad, would like to extend your call, and we've taken your name to the prophet, and he's approved it, and to be a bishop." And right away, I'm like, "But I gotta say a prayer." And President, they're like other cool guys in the word. I don't know, I'm like totally. It was off guard. I guess that's what happens, and I was just like out of breath. I didn't know what to say, and then there I was thinking about just the opening prayer, but they talk about a mental, and I got to experience that. I think it comes with every calling. The mental comes in, and you just, whoever the Lord calls, and that's what President Saul, he quoted. He said, "Remember, brother, whoever the Lord calls, he qualifies," because I felt like totally unqualified. And then he said, "Well, don't worry about it. It's not the experience. It's not this and that. It's the Lord. He's the one calling you, and he'll qualify you." When I was sustained and I saw the members in the congregation putting their hand on the square and sustaining me, right there, I felt so much support. I felt the love. And I've known a lot of these members already, right? And I know their love and their sincere, their faith. And when I saw that, I'm like, what am I afraid of? I'm not alone. I got these great brothers and sisters who are with me in this. And I don't need to be afraid. And I felt so much strength from that right on, just right on there. And that's what helped me do the calling as a service bishop.
Okay, well, I was serving in the ward. I'd served in a number of callings. I'd been a self-reliance specialist, a counselor, and others quorum. I think my calling at the time was I was like the adult Sunday school or gospel doctrine teacher. And I really enjoyed that. And I did notice a few times the stake presidency or different members of the stake presidency would come in to my Sunday school classes like a few months before. And I knew that Janus, Bishop Prasad, was coming to the end. I'm like, oh no, I hope they're not coming to check me out for this. But yeah, eventually it came to that time, and it was interesting. I was about the next day, I was leaving for a vacation with my sisters to Japan, and I got a call from President Woolsey just to come in with my wife for an interview. And so I kind of knew what it would be then. And I made the excuse that, sorry, I'm leaving. I won't have time to meet. And he said, come in right now if you can. And so got dressed in my Sunday clothes and got my wife to get dressed. And we went to the stake office at like 9 or 10 at night that night and had an interview. Oh, it was like, oh, I think they're going to call me as bishop. And of course, my wife was like, no, you can't be bishop. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I can't do it. they don't know. Travis doesn't really know me anymore, or President Woolsey doesn't know me anymore. We'll just tell him we can't do it. And we both agreed on that. And yeah, it was not that pleasant a ride, but it was basically like, okay, team, we can turn this down and get out of here quick, and that'll be good. No, not to the call. Like to the call, I still said no. We went through our rehearsal. We did everything we rehearsed, and he just kind of listened to us, give our reasons and excuses and things why it couldn't really work. And then he basically just said, well, I'll give you a week to think about it. I'm like, well, I don't need a week, but fine. And yeah, so then it was interesting. As soon as we walked out the door, kind of sat down with Ginny, my wife, and yeah, something just happened. I just had this really strong, overwhelming feeling that I've only had kind of a couple of times in my life, was just saying, that's the right thing to do. You should do it. And I told her that, and she said, I had the same feeling, which is weird because what about all the reasons we have that we can't do it? And I said, I don't know, but let's, we have 7 days, so let's think about that and see if that changes back. And so we just kind of left it as that. And I went to Japan, and sometime in Japan, I just sent President Woolsey an email and said I would accept the call, and we went forward from there. Yeah, it was actually really busy. Right now, I mean, right now I know more about what I'm doing, and I have some seasoned counselors that have been in the bishopric with me and had callings and these things before. When I was first called for myself and my counselors, it was the first time any of us had been in a bishopric, and we were just really not sure what to do on a lot of things. Luckily, we had some good high council people, other people that would help us. But yeah, it was really intense at the beginning. Yeah, there's a lineup of people outside my door waiting to talk to me, somehow thinking I would know what to say or what to do. And yeah, I was just lost there.